Hey friends, we are back, and this would have been the day that we would have been in our first day in Jerusalem on our trip.
Yep.
We would wake up early in the morning, grab breakfast, shoot over to the bus, grab our Bibles, and we would be going where on our first day, Matt?
So it would be a short drive. We would go to the top of the Mount of Olives and we would kind of overlook Jerusalem and the city of David from there, seeing the Temple Mount. And we would teach about so many powerful things that happen on the side of that mountain. But what we're going to share with you is we would walk down about halfway, almost 3/4 of the way, and we would get down to where Gethsemane was, which was an olive grove, some call it a garden, right, that people would gather in. And it's a place where Jesus spent a lot of his time. Like even Luke 21:37 mentions that Jesus spent most of his nights on the Mount of Olives in Gethsemane while he was in Jerusalem. So he would go into the city, but he would come back and he would stay there. And a lot of people believed that maybe somebody was giving him access or even possibly renting out to the disciples and him the olive press that was there, because Gethsemane is a Greek translation of a Hebrew word gait shemain, and that's the olive press. And so that's what it was really representing. And they had these olive presses. Well, Jesus goes there, and I think the time that most of us remember the most is Jesus goes there on the night that he's going to be betrayed. And so he goes there. Judas would have known where it was. The disciples were familiar with it. And they go there, and Jesus takes a few of his disciples with him and goes to a certain place and then even separates himself from there. And they go, and he spends time praying to the Father with what's about to happen in his life, with what's going to be going on. And he goes there, and in Luke 22:42, and in Matthew 26, it says he goes and he falls with his face to the ground to pray. And as he prayed, he's praying with all of his might. And you have to think of the agony that was on his face, and how his probably his lips were just kind of in that very determined, focused piece. And it tells us that his brow is sweating, and he's sweating with so much fiercity that he's bleeding drops of blood from his forehead. And he's saying this powerful terms. He's saying, Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done. And I remember sitting in Gethsemane just a couple years ago in Israel and spending some time by myself just repeating those words over and over and over again. Father, not my will, but yours be done. With my family, not my will, but yours be done. With my friends, not my will, but yours be done. With my finances, not my will, but yours be done. With my job, and to just go through the areas and to realize that Jesus was speaking that over all of humanity. He's speaking that over all of us. But then what happens next is it's in that same area of Gethsemane on the Mount of Olives that the mob, this armed mob, is going to come to capture Jesus. And they're going to come, and it's going to be a mixture of Roman soldiers and temple soldiers and scribes and servants. And they come late in the night, and the disciples, of course, freak out, and they start scattering. And Peter even pulls out a sword, because there's two of them that have swords, and he goes to try to strike one of the guys and just gets his ear. And Jesus even stays Peter's hand there. And he says, I could call down a whole legion of angels. I could stop this. And Jesus makes it really clear that he's in the garden there. He's in Gethsemane for a purpose. Not for his will, but for the Father's to be done. And so what ends up happening? They come over and they arrest Jesus, and he goes to the cross. And you have to realize that Jesus was in Gethsemane. He was in that place for the people that were in the garden. And it makes me always ask the question, was he there for me too? And the answer is yes, because each of those three different groups, Judas, or this mob that didn't really even fully understand who Jesus was, or Peter, who understood but zealously thought that things had to happen a certain ways, Jesus was in the garden for each of them. And he was bold, and he was confident, and he voluntarily went forward. And that's one of the things I love in John chapter 18, is that when the people ask, we're here for Jesus, Jesus steps forward boldly and confidently and says, I am he. He's not running. He knows why he's there, and he knows what it's going to mean for humanity. And so we want to give you guys some practical challenges like we're doing. Emmanuel, you want to tell us what our challenge is going to be this time?
Yeah, but real quick before we do that, I like what you said, that it was a familiar place.
Yeah.
It was a familiar place. They all knew. Judas knew where to find Jesus because it was a familiar place.
Yeah.
If you don't have a familiar place where you go and you just spend time with your Jesus, number one, you got to find a place. You got to find the time. Number two, find the time. Make the time. because time is something that we're never going to get back. But how nice would it be if we could just retreat and go into a time of prayer, meditation, grab your Bible, grab your worship music, and get to a place where you can ask, Lord, not my will but yours. What do you want from me today? Don't worry about tomorrow. Today.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, do it again.
Yeah. So find a spot, whether it's somewhere in a park or in your backyard or in some property, or just drive, 30 minutes, 45 minutes from where you live. Spend some time, find a space, and talk to your Father. And remember that Jesus was in the garden, Jesus was in Gethsemane for you so that you could have this relationship in these intimate times. So we'll talk to you again soon. We'll
Yep.
see you at the next site. Have a
Yep.
great day.
Okay.